Hi everyone, and welcome to another series of InfraViewing. I'm absolutely delighted to have Justin Day, CEO of Cloud Gateway. So Cloud Gateway, a multi-award-winning hybrid cloud connectivity platform that securely and rapidly connects to any company estate with multiple cloud service providers. So allowing organizations to harness and power the flexibility of hybrid clouds, but with more control, pace and visibility. I'd like to also add, as the pioneer of agile networking, providing network and security services for public and private sector customers all throughout the UK. I think, and I could be wrong, I'll let Justin confirm this, but I think UK's first fully managed SASE organisation is. Have I nailed that, Justin, or I'm sure you'll give us a better overview?
No, I think you have absolutely nailed that. Not the punchy elevator pitch that I originally wanted to put forward. It covers everything, and that is exactly right. Yeah.
Perfect. Listen, Justin, thanks so much for your time today. I know you're super busy, hearing nothing but great things about Cloud Gateway, and yeah, I was super excited when you give us the opportunity to jump under the spotlight. So look, let's kick things off for the wider audience. Just give us a quick overview of, I suppose, your career to date and how you got into the industry, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess probably the starting point was the most interesting because I originally went for a job in marketing when I was 17 years old.
All right.
Academia was not for me, and there's only so long that you can bum around before your parents go, probably best you start doing something. And in that day, it was mum circling jobs in the local paper, and that's true. And
Yeah,
just assumed that, always been quite a sort of extrovert, exuberant type character, and thought, well, if you're confident, sales and marketing is the kind of, hey, that's the way you go. And
yeah.
yeah, went for a marketing interview, so I was 17, didn't get the job, but they created a junior role and said, look, if you're prepared to come in for 6 months and work on our IT help desk, we think that you can get your phone skills up and all of this good stuff, and then we'll move you into marketing.
Okay.
And to be honest, the rest was kind of history from the moment that I started because I was working on an IT help desk. I was dealing with telephony. I was dealing with modems back then. Dealing with,
Yeah,
this was the year 2000, so IT was not as it was amazing because it wasn't really that long ago, but it's just not as fully fledged as it is today. So you had a lot of people
definitely.
who didn't understand how to do things, and so I had the ability to learn. Very quickly got given a pathway into either comms or servers and infrastructure. I took comms, ended up working at what was cable and wireless, so
Yeah,
telco, cable and wireless, later bought by Vodafone as they are today. And so come up through telecommunications, working with private sector originally, done a lot more with public sector in the last 10 years, and then 7 years ago took the plunge, co-founded a company. You know, I think many people think when you co-found a company or you found a company, you've got everything laid out, everything's perfection, and you go about this kind of huge plan. That's not what happens. You
yeah.
end up sort of stumbling across something and then build a company around it, and then you start to go from there. So yeah, but I've always loved comms. I've always loved networking. Um, I guess it's fascinated me more as I got into it. It wasn't the career I sought, but it's one that I'm glad I'm in.
No, I love that, right? And look, I love hearing where people have come from, sort of different backgrounds and their decision making around it. When you had that decision to make, sort of comms or sort of traditional infrastructure, why comms at that point? Bearing in mind you just got into IT and you were trying to go for a marketing job, went to help desk, and then you were sort of put into that situation. Which route you going down? What was your thinking around that, and why?
Yeah, I think for me, the majority of people went towards infrastructure. And at the time, that was because
Yeah,
there were two major certifications. So for someone like me that hadn't completed, well, I had my GCSEs at the time, but nothing else. There was kind of two
yeah,
vocational
yeah,
tracks. The MCSE was Microsoft's, the CCNA was Cisco's, and that
yeah.
both were quite new. And just the majority of people were going down the Windows and the Microsoft route. And I guess I've always been someone who basically goes goes in the other direction from where the norm is.
Love it.
That's just who I am as a character, I think. And I think I really loved as well. I loved the concept of comms. I like the fact that it was seen as the kind of the black box, the black magic. No one really knew what it was, and that fascinated me. But I think the thing that really got me is, I'm a real maths nerd, and
Right.
that was so heavily based on numbers and an understanding of numbers and how to manipulate numbers down at that, binary level that I was just smitten by that. So it wasn't a difficult choice for me to make.
Love it. And look, and that's great. Yeah. So I love the fact you've sort of almost looked at two areas and thought, right, well, everyone's going this route. I'm going the other one. Yeah, because I've just got that ability, mindset, passion to do things different and be the best I can, right? And yeah, it clearly shows today in the career and what you've achieved. And also, I wrote down when you said when you set up your business and become a founder, people expect you to know it all. Where, when I set up InfraView 8 years ago, actually, I realized very quickly what I don't know
Yeah.
and what I need to do to be able to, run and drive a successful business. And yeah, still learning now, 8 years in. But yeah, no, I love that. Cool. So comms went down that route, wanted to challenge yourself, be different, and then the founder of Cloud Gateway, right? So for the audience, tell us what that core focus is for you guys, because I look at your website, I hear great things in the market. Every time I speak to a candidate, they're talking about the buzz around Cloud Gateway. Give us a snapshot. What's that core focus for Cloud Gateway right now?
Yeah, I think the core focus, when myself and Neil founded the company, we we didn't really have, I think, a different view then to what we would have now. And I think that's probably a testament to the way that the market has both changed and stayed quite similar. Comms is fairly similar at its most basic. It is, I need to get from A to B. Then
Yeah,
you can layer on. I need to do it in a secure way. I need to do it slightly quicker. We always use road analogies, car analogies, traffic analogies. That's network people, and it's the
yeah,
same. It's the same thing. You look at everything in the country when it comes to infrastructure. People want roads that are open with more lanes. They want more trains going faster. It's exactly the same thing. So for us, the people that kind of offer out comms and comms services were traditional telcos. That's the background that we kind of came from. So we knew that. But the problem was that in a market that was shifting outside of comms, becoming much, much quicker, consumer expectations just changing so much. Everything
yeah.
from businesses down to, my son expects to be able to get an app and work and it's going on his phone like bang. It has to be
Instantly. Yeah,
instantly, that
yeah.
instant gratification. But it's consumer expectation. And everything in IT, which is a broad brushstroke, it is moving or has moved and is changing. Comms, sadly, not, and that's some of that is technical, but a lot of that wasn't technical. It was more bureaucratic. It was more around
Okay.
commercials and approach, and there was no desire to move or change. So, you know, for us, it's about recognizing that the things that are going to change the world, the technologies that change the world, aren't networks. We aren't going to change the world, but what we're going to do is speed up the ability to consume those things that are, and
Love it.
that's the most important part, and it hasn't really changed. So what we're doing, whether we talk at a very detailed level, at the highest level, it is constantly that is how can we continually adapt and evolve to ensure that people can get access to the technologies that change the world, enable businesses, affect everything from public services to buying insurance online, whatever it might be, and
Yep.
just keep that wheel turning. So the focus hasn't really shifted at all. It's just that the expectation is changing, and we're the ones trying to pioneer making that a reality.
Love it. And again, I suppose using your road analogy, the roads are they're always there, they're always gonna be there. But how can we make them quicker, slicker, and faster, right? And
Yeah.
easier. I suppose hence the name, what Cloud Gateway, right? So creating the gateway to a better experience through comms to the cloud. I don't
I'd,
know.
I'd love to say that we sat down and we really thought
Well,
about
that
the
was my
name of the
next
company.
question. That was my
Um,
next question. Who thought of it? Why? When? And how long did it take?
it was actually one of our investors
Right.
originally when we sat down and said, right, okay, we're going to need a name because we had a kind of a working project name, which wasn't going to fly. And so we had to, we went around this. It was kind of simple in that in it is what we first started out to do. We started because the debate started because people were moving services to cloud. And so
Yeah,
so that consumption was more cloud based. People were focused on cloud. People weren't having the same
definitely.
discussions about, hey, can you get between my old sites and bricks and mortar and this, that, and the other? Despite the fact that's still very real and isn't going to change, it was about cloud. So I think we kind of
Definitely.
threw that out as a, well, that's what we're doing, not what we should call ourselves. And by the time we went around this little list, right, well, I guess that will work.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think part of subconsciously what we're trying to move towards is it's almost, it reminds me of like Hoover. Everyone recognizes Hoover as a brand of vacuum cleaner. I kind of
Yep.
I kind of hope that people see as we move forwards into this world that's going to have more competitors come into it, that what people say is, oh, I need a cloud gateway, and what they actually mean is they need a centralized immediate platform to be able to connect to clouds and other services, but by proxy, they're kind of using our name. So
Love it.
I'd love to say there was a really cool story, and we went off on a camping trip, and someone fell over, and there was like some brilliant
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Like it really just circled back to what is it we do rather than find a name for it.
I love it, but that's logical, right? So
Yeah,
by you just there explaining what you guys do as a business and how you enable businesses to operate better, well, yeah, being that gateway to the cloud, regardless of what technology they use, whether it be through traditional infrastructure or utilizing comms or both, actually you can make that happen and at speed, at cost effective, etc. Yeah, no, I love that. Cool. So, all right, and in terms of so who are you doing that for? So actually, no, let me phrase that slightly different. So if you look at your customers, what does that perfect client look like? Whether it be size, vertical, technology, whatever.
yeah. I think everybody would probably answer that and say the perfect client is massive with a huge budget, no constraints, and they
Yeah,
love you.
yeah,
Which,
exactly. Yeah,
which is
just writing checks for fun.
yeah, which is still true. But if
Yeah.
we step away from that for a second, I guess the perfect client for us is is a larger, complex organisation,
Okay.
um, because there are so many things that we can achieve, and there's so much more in the outcome that can be achieved. There's usually that complexity also lends itself to kind of network technical debt, which we can help unpick and get to a sort of a more stable future. Um,
Okay.
so I guess that's the answer from the point of view of from the customer's perspective. I think the customer's ideal company to work with, therefore, is an us. Um, from our point of view, that is of course wonderful, but there's also an element of us being able to build from the ground up. You don't get that very often in comms. Very very rarely, like I said, does someone start a company and go, right, I've got X million pounds. I need to go and build a network. Let's go and find a company and build greenfield.
Yeah, yeah,
We've done that once with one of our customers, who's a challenger bank, because they really were building from the ground up. And it's one of the only times in my career I've had the opportunity to do that, and it was, I mean, that really, in many ways, is the ideal customer because there's nothing to have to work round. There's no brownfield staff, there's no legacy, there's no bureaucracy, there's no incumbent. So that's
yep,
perfection. Very rarely will you get that. So,
yep.
yeah, so I guess I haven't answered that in a specific, but you've got, I guess it's one either end of an odd scale, either hugely complex and a bit of a minefield,
Yep.
or no complexity at all. It's when it's in the middle, it's like,
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, look, everyone wants the greenfield
of
company,
course.
right? Where there's nothing there and you just literally go in there. You talk about what's needed, how it's going to work, how it's going to benefit, and you just start to build, right? So, and then the ones that people always struggle with is if after doing that initial assessment, whether it be pre-sales, architecture, design, whatever, before all of that's done, it's like, this is all over the place. It's wrong. It's not working. And actually what you want to achieve means that we've got to start again. But to start again, you've got to almost take out what is already
Yeah.
potentially in place and half working. So that becomes, a lot more complicated. So if you were looking at the bigger, sort of more complex organizations, so from a technology stack, where would you lead? How would you lead? What would your core focus be? Because we're talking about comms, but they're obviously going to be cloud aspect to it.
Yep.
Yeah. So if a client now was looking, they're a big company, they're not happy, they're not comfortable, they want their organization to be slicker, quicker, operate better. Okay. What technology would you be leading with, or would it all depend on what they've currently got in place at the moment?
Yeah, again, I think the kind of it's as easy an answer as it is a difficult answer. The easy answer is always to say it depends. Um,
Yeah.
I think what we lead in with, and I always see this as one of our core USPs,
Cool.
is that we have a native overlay for multi-vendor capability. So we never
Right.
set out, and frankly, I don't think, well, I say don't think we ever will. If we become a multi-billion pound company that I aspire to be, maybe that will change. But I am.
Yeah.
There are there are networking companies out there who have spent billions on R&D, and it's foolish of me to go and start writing routers and creating firewalls. That's a problem. But in creating a native overlay, whether we want to talk about it as an orchestration platform or whatever words we want to use, and being able to select best of breed under the bonnet so that we can get the
Yep.
outcomes from those vendors, that that is where I think this really sits, because you've got some companies like to work with certain technology providers, and it's important
Yep.
to them. They like to feel secured by a company or a vendor they've done their diligence on and they think is better in the market. Um,
Yep.
some like the ability to be able to flex and change immediately. So to be able to move from vendor A to vendor B in the click of a click of a switch, click of a button,
Yep.
that is a world that we have created and are improving that just doesn't exist in comms. Traditionally, that's we'd have to take a completely different approach. We'd have to go and think about how we do it. What does it look in our architecture? We have to, buy it's more capital expenditure. We have to rack this stuff in data centers. Now
Yep.
it's just done. So for me, it's really trying to it's always difficult as well, depending on who you're talking to. You're talking to a technology person or you're talking to a business outcomes person. There's that sort of gap. Um, and I think the technology person enjoys it because they have access to the things that they like, but they also know they have the flexibility to change.
Yep.
The non-technology person, the business outcomes person, they like that conversation because it's not a technology focused play. It's technology
Of
that
course.
enables that outcome. And so for them, they love that. So that's what we that's kind of where we would pitch that at that level.
Yep.
But traditionally, it's sort of going into whoever's responsible for the comms piece in an organization and then working upwards and downwards in the sort of hierarchy, so closer to technology and closer to business outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the business outcomes are key, and flexibility is what we are seeing more and more sort of MSP and IT solution providers offering now. Where, like you said, traditionally, if you're coming from a comms network background, it was kind of like these routers, these switches, this data center, and then from an infrastructure side, it was kind of like you're on-prem. Suddenly, everyone started talking about the cloud, and then we're like, "Oh, right, okay, we've got to move everyone from on-prem to the cloud." But what's going on with the networking? And now we're seeing actually more people talking about that sort of hybrid cloud model and different technologies within it, opposed to actually the old legacy ones. And I think that's quite refreshing because it's not like one hat fits all. It's like, well, what have you got in play at the moment? What's not working? What are you looking to achieve? And actually, like you said, you can then look at whatever vendors you're working with or what partnerships you work with to then come up with that best possible return for the customer, right?
Yeah, absolutely that.
Cool. No, I love that. And then and what about challenges that you guys have faced and seen? So, there has been a huge amount of change, not just over the last 18 months, but the last 5 years in terms of technology, digital transformation. Some companies doing well, some companies just really struggling, depending on what sector they operate in, and whether it be public, private, etc. But what challenges does Cloud Gateway had to overcome that really stood out that have enabled you to then continue to move forward once you've overcome them?
I think I'll probably go back to consumer expectation. So,
Okay.
one of the biggest changes in consumer expectation, and by that I mean not just how they're buying something, how they are literally consuming a service that's been bought for them. So it might be users in a company. The most obvious one to talk to is COVID and the impact that had on remote working and the impact
Yep.
that affects a number of things. So on the surface, it looks like, from a technical perspective only, it looks like, oh, we just need a remote access solution.
Yeah.
What it actually then is a consideration around, okay, what does our security posture look like? Is someone using a device on the end of this thing that I've said they can or can't use? How do I secure that? How am I looking at my internet? If I'm bringing everyone in over the internet, I'm now exposed to the internet. I think that then extends into cloud. I think
Definitely.
there's been a massive shift in moving towards the internet as the network underlay of choice. And I think there's some positive reasons that's happened. I think there's some very negative or misguided reasons that that has happened. But with it brings challenges. So it's great that the perception is, hey, I can more quickly get on a network, and I can make it more cost effective because I think everybody just perceives that it's just like getting your £40 a month home line. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but as,
Just going to ring up, order it,
yeah,
pay a 12-month description, it's done.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly that, which it isn't. And then it's that consideration of, well, what does that secure? You have then exposed yourself to the internet. Your business now has an exposure point. Your
absolutely.
threat surface has grown, so how are you securing that? And the more of those you put forward, the more that you expose that it grows, but it's not consistent either. So if you have um, people's home broadband, their office is now inside their home. There's a a point of entry into your network. But you now got with cloud, there's gateways built from the different cloud providers. So where I think multi-cloud is becoming more common now cloud
Definitely.
itself is more established. You've got the bigger threat surface on each of the clouds that a customer is using. Um, but the problem that then comes with that as well is often native tooling is used across the different clouds, and that's not consistent. So Google's native approach and Amazon's native approach and Microsoft's native approach, which I don't doubt are very, very good and very, very strong, aren't necessarily the same. So now as a company, if you're a CISO, I mean, if I was a CISO, I think I'd be having a permanent heart attack because
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I just don't know how you can, as it grows and spirals and the controls are given to everything from the developers in the cloud, they can do what they want, to home users are doing what they want. And I don't mean that maliciously. They're not doing it because they don't care. They're doing it because they've just been given the access to move forward and do what they need to do. um, but that's a problem. So for us, I think that's the challenge we see that our customers definitely have. And the challenge therefore back to us is, how do you deal with that? How do you recognize that? How do you
Yep.
talk about it? And how do you help rectify it?
And you know what? As you were saying that, it was leading to my next question. I'll put you under it slightly, just in terms of, well, everyone's talking about the cyber threats. Everyone's worried, nervous, and there's some MSPs that unfortunately have been bitten on the backside. Not to name any, but last year there was a massive, issue, and one particular company, cost a lot of customers a lot of money, right? But if there is a client out there right now that is nervous, not comfortable with their current provider, needs to, introduce a bigger, slicker, better network security service that sits in the cloud, okay, but they're worried about, is it going to be secure? What would you say to them if they were to come to Cloud Gateway?
Um, I think that they should remain cautious. I actually think I
Okay,
know that's maybe not
love it.
the answer that you'd
No,
think is. I'm not unhappy with a DTA approach. Don't trust anybody. Don't
yeah,
If you take that, I mean, there's obviously a level of compromise because otherwise you could just shut shop and you might as well just throw your business in the bin.
yeah, of
But,
course.
but all what is it? Plan for the worst and hope for the best. I think
Yep,
that is always the approach I'd be taking. I think as well. I wouldn't where I wouldn't buy into. It's not the native tooling. Like I said, it's not the native tooling of those clouds. It's the, do I want multiple exposure points? How can I have that where I've got a single pane of glass? And it doesn't mean you can't also have. It's funny. These are very legacy comms terms, but defense in depth. Now,
yep,
defense in depth used to mean I buy two or three different vendor firewalls, so I stick them in a line,
yeah, yeah.
and
Protect it.
the packet just goes plop plop plop, and basically that was just
Yeah,
expensive and rubbish.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Conceptually, I actually agree that there's a way to do that. And I think as well, I'd also say to the CISOs of the world, and people looking at that problem, isn't just the DTA, is don't don't get lured in by market hype. Hype is also terminology. So one of the things I've heard in the last few years, which again as a network person makes you kind of want to bash your head on the wall, is centralized architecture is a bad thing. We don't want centralized
Right.
architecture. We want distributed architecture. Again, I understand it conceptually is fine. I just
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if people understand that in the United Kingdom, which geographically is a tiny little country, that everything we're doing even now is kind of centralized because
Yeah.
all of the packets are going to go back via London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, or Glasgow. I'll bet my house on it. So everything kind of centralizes in the way it does anyway. I think we've just manipulated the word. So again, I'd look at don't dismiss an approach because of language use.
Yeah, I love that. And look, we work in a very incestuous world, not just in the MSP and IT solution provider space, but in the world of IT, right? One person talks about one buzzword, and the next minute everyone starts jumping off the back of it, and it can get lost the detail around actually what it does, what's the benefits, etc. Right? I mean, that kind of sort of leads me to, dare I say, AI automation, because it's the talk of the town right now. But I'd love to hear your views on sort of what technology will most disrupt the market in the next 12 months, or what is already disrupting us right now in the channel.
It's definitely AI. That would
Yeah,
be
it is.
that would be my go-to. It's
Yeah,
impossible not to see it, but
well, it's here
it's
to
here.
stay, isn't it?
It is
Yeah,
here. But here's my take on this is that
go for it.
it's one of the heights that I've seen in the last decades that I actually can get behind. Now, that comes with a sort of buyer beware, there's a warning. There is going to be a lot of charlatan activity off of that. Um,
Yeah,
I have seen countless examples of automated scripts referred to as AI. It's not AI, it's just computer programming. That's not
yeah,
AI.
yeah.
So
Click a button,
yeah,
input, click, print.
exactly that. And
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of things I've seen are like it's kind of coattailing, but it is not going away. This one for me is not like your classic kind of Gartner hype cycles where it kind of rides the wave and then ultimately it drops off. And I can think of many that have done that.
yeah.
Um, this isn't. This is not, or it's going to ride a much longer wave um, until it normalizes into where people understand. Oh, okay, that's not AI. That's just computer programming. Or people start to look at it and go, okay, that was just a part of the trick. Does that meaningfully change my business or my life? No, it doesn't. It's just garbage.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is kind of pointless. But how does that therefore change channel, change approach to IT, tech, everything? I saw some uh, great interviews with Jensen Huang from NVIDIA,
Okay.
where he's talking about um, he's talking about hardware and data centers being sexy again because they are because there's a view
For
as to
certain people.
but yeah I'm sure there's plenty of
Yeah,
people who won't find it like that
yeah, yeah,
but everything goes in circles as well. So when everything went to the cloud, everyone hated data centers and hardware. There's again dirty words. But
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but now there's this discussion point as to how long it will take to populate the data centers that are currently in the world with
Definitely.
masses of GPUs, GPU farms, whatever those might be. Um, it's going to take forever. It's massive. So the focus, certainly from an investor level, if we take it all the way up to the big money level, now that's the one that's cool. So there's a trickle down effect as well. On the surface, we talk about AI. So no one's talking about a PCB that has to be installed in a server, but that's the knock-on effect. That's the big change. And then, of course, again, it's everything from comms through to consumption. So if we've suddenly got a data center, they look at and they go, right, it's going to take me this amount of money and this amount of time to repopulate this full of NVIDIA stuff, because it's likely going to be that, isn't it? Of course, someone's going to go, right, actually, is it quicker to build a data center and start greenfield? That is going to happen. That is, or can I find a disused warehouse and just convert it? That's going to happen. And then it's a case of, right, how do I connect it? How do I connect it to the world? And am I going to be using the internet? The internet, which is the underlay of choice for everybody. Well, the internet is not guaranteed, it's latent. So depending on how you're consuming it, you're actually not doing it in the right way. Because if you're trying to consume stuff live, it depends how you do it. There's a maelstrom of chaos here, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, and it is so broad at the moment, isn't it? I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. Is what everyone's saying AI automation, and what is actually AI? What is automation? Are we just sitting there saying because someone can plug a bit of information on an app and then get a whole brand new, perfectly laid out sort of scripted article, and they're like, great, this is AI. Well, or is that just a you know is that just a bit of code being generated off the back of a bit of information you've put in, right? And for me, it's one of those areas where when it first started being talked about, I was like, oh Jesus, yeah, I'm going to struggle with this. But actually, there'll be certain bits that I can just click very easily and get what I need. But then I started to look at people in even my office where we're a recruitment company and we're all about human interaction, getting on the phone, meeting customers, engaging with customers, etc. And then suddenly I started to look around, seeing everyone on this tool where they're just like getting pages and pages of emails to try and answer a question. I'm like, but you can just answer that yourself anyway.
Yeah.
You don't need a tool to tell you how to reply to something that you clearly are able to do yourself. But equally, if we can use AI and automation to, I suppose, minimize some of the grunt work to get us closer to that face to face, that sort of human interaction, I'm all for it, right?
Yeah.
How you guys having many conversations with your customers about AI and automation? I mean, is that just like the hot topic right now, or does that not come up as often?
No, I don't think it comes up at all.
Okay.
I think again in comms and in networking generally, I think there's the boundary hasn't been pushed very far,
Okay.
and it depends which part of the sort of greater sphere of networking we're talking about. Because if we're talking about
Yeah,
security, and we come back to that bit, that scares people. They're like, look, I
definitely.
don't, I don't trust people when they can make a human error, and I don't know if I trust this thing that clearly isn't real and is demonstrating that at the moment it's not mature. So it can
Exactly.
make a ton of errors. And networking is going back to the word binary, is beautifully binary. You know when there's a network issue because if everything doesn't work, that's a network issue.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So a mistake, if it is made, can be fairly catastrophic. Um,
Okay.
that said, I saw some of the best use of AI, and they're way ahead of the game, which is why they got bought for £14 billion. It was Juniper. Juniper's missed AI function and
Yeah.
functionality miles ahead of the game. Really interesting in how you can consume the data from the routers and the firewalls, how you can ask questions, what in very much what would happen if, and if I code like this, or if I drop this rule in. It's a very interactive thing. Again, I don't doubt there's some partner tricks in there, but
Of course.
it's so far ahead. And say that HPE bought them for £14 billion. But your question
Yeah.
was, do our customers talk about it? It's not come up once.
Perfect. Good. Okay. All right. Good. So in terms of what's, I suppose, what do you see in the market now? Okay. No. What do you see evolving for you guys for cloud gateways market, customer, client base, etc.? How do you see things evolving in the next sort of 12 to 18 months from a technology perspective that is relevant to cloud gateway and the services you offer?
Yeah, I think it's. I feel like I'm beating the same drum on this one, but I think it's about consumer expectation. I think
Okay.
managed service, in its purest play, doesn't exist in the same way it did 20 years ago, and I
Yep.
don't think that is the buying customer's expectation. Um, and so I think not necessarily a full SaaS offering. There may
Yep.
be a middle ground. Um, but a move towards a truly hybrid play where on one end of it, a prospective customer has the ability to make the changes and do the things that they want, and
Yep.
they have control of the button pressing. And I think if we're looking, if we sort of dare to dream 18 months and push it to sort of a 10-year bracket, the more and more we can truly simplify that is a market that's going to be very interesting because there'll be claims from SD-WAN is another sort of wonderful hype term that has been sadly abused in the UK. And part of its intent, and to a degree, cloud consumption as well, is to take networking down to its sort of lowest common form, such that anyone who doesn't understand networks can say, right, I click that, I switch that. Oh yeah, look, I've created a whatever it might
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think at the moment, yes, whilst that can happen, it's still very rudimentary. And so I think that really coming to this, there are two parts to it. One, ensuring that it is of an appropriate technical ability, a security that is comforting for the CISOs of the world and the security teams, but also just pulling that simplification even further. I think that's very exciting. We always talk about at some point in my life, I would love to be able to see my mum build a fully fledged corporate tier one WAN. That's
Love
the
it.
dream.
Love it.
And she is not IT literate, so
Yeah.
this is a challenge.
Mate, that is awesome. And look, do you know what? Hopefully, with all the technology, the experience, and what we have access to, in today's world, sounds like a goal that I'm looking forward to getting you back on the spotlight, and you can tell me if you've achieved it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, look, before we move back onto sort of you and sort of career success to date and things like that, just for the audience, from a client and candidate perspective, what are your core USPs, right? Just in terms of what you guys want to be known for, what you guys want to be perceived for.
What I want to be known for
Okay,
is being able to connect anything to everything immediately. So
love it.
there are technologies that haven't even been designed that will appear tomorrow, next week, next year, and I want us to be in a position where that doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about
Okay,
comms because whatever that appears at or in whatever flavor, bang, we're already going to be able to connect to it. I think from a USP's perspective, I touched on that multi-vendor. I think that's really important. Being able to take the best of breed of everything and be able to condense that into something that the customer can use so that they get the best of every single technology out there. And
yep,
and the final one for me is about commercials. So being able to take uh, cloud commercials into the space of network expectations. So again, the expectation historically has been very capex, very multi-year driven. I
yep.
want to be able to take this. Hey, the dream, whether or not this would work, this would need some serious market testing. Is pay per bit. I literally pay
Okay,
per bit. Or I have that available to me. If comms could work in exactly the same way that people spin stuff up and down in cloud, I pay per bit. There's no capex. Bang. And we're working towards that. We're a long way towards that. I think there's a long way to go to see if it could be quite like that. But that would be another USP, the commercial expectation and how to and purchasing expectation of comms.
oh, I love it. Perfect. So, look, anyone there is watching that is either thinking about new services across network security and want to talk to cloud secure around basically allowing their business to connect to anything, any estate, any company at any time, while utilizing the opportunity with multi-vendor relationships and then, yeah, making things commercially right by a click of a button. Justin's your man. Or at least able to talk about, what the future will look like, right? Because
That's
that's
right.
what we need to be doing. We always need to be looking at what is now, what it's going to look like in the future and how we're going to get there and taking those customers on a journey. Because some
Yeah.
people aren't ready. Some people are thinking about it. Some people just need a bit of support and help and guidance, right? And that's why I love working in this industry where, there's so many like-minded, sort of inspirational people like Justin that are prepared to give back, and it actually clearly means something to you, which I love. You're sitting there saying not only is your goal and achievement to do this from a business perspective, but yeah, if you can get your mum at a click of a button to be able to create a WAN, happy days, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's passion for what you do right there. No, I love it. All right, perfect, cool. Let's bring it back to you now, a little bit more in terms of yeah. I'm sure there's many answers to this, but what would you say your biggest sort of career success? Give us a highlight, a story, or something that you're most proud of.
Yeah. The thing I'm definitely most proud of by a country mile is having been able to create a platform, and in this case, I mean co-found a company that
Yeah,
has allowed us to give opportunity to people to get into this space and to thrive who simply wouldn't have had that. I'm not
love
gonna
that.
I'm not gonna name them. I can think of at least three people. They're in the company at the moment. None of them came from a technology background at all. Um, all of the right desire, all of the right will, clearly got to succeed. And I have that platform here to be able to do that. So that for me
Love
is the
that.
greatest success.
Do you know what? Why can't you name them? Just because they just won't want to be named, or?
Because they'll probably never let me live it down.
Yeah, yeah, fine. No, fair enough. But look, I love that. Look, and again, it's just a testament of wanting to give back, right? You're a founder, CEO of a thriving business, but so much more to do, which excites you, and an opportunity to give back to people that are either looking for a change or looking to enter it for the channel for the first time. I love that. It was only this morning I put an article about empowering staff and making people be better and all that kind of stuff. And I often get asked, what does success look like for me? And I always give two answers. From a personal perspective, when I cross people in the street and they say, I bumped into your son last week, what a lovely, engaging, mature lad. I have to then think, are they talking about my son? But then I'm like, do you know what? It just fills me with just that real sense of achievement as a parent. And then from a business perspective, as cheesy as this may sound, but it's the truth, is seeing my staff flourish, empowering them to be better, giving them accountability, responsibility, to be the best version of themselves. And you just absolutely nailed it there. You've three guys that will stay unnamed for now, but I'm going to press you on that later. They've never worked in the IT space before. They've come in, you've given them a platform of opportunity. And I absolutely love that. And again, if anyone is looking or interested, whether they want to change from one company to another, reach out to Justin, and I'm sure he'd be keen to, talk to you about his business in more detail. And equally, if you're looking to enter, the crazy world of MSP and IT solution providers, then again, all the details I'll finish off later and highlight everything below and links and all that kind of good stuff. But I love that, probably one of the best answers I've heard actually since getting a lot of owners on this podcast. So cool. What about challenges? Something that some people fear, some people embrace. How do you personally handle the sort of challenge of demanding technology that we're up against all the time? Any tips?
uh, Listen and learn. I know that sounds like something you got out of a kind of fortune cookie, but it's one of the things I answer that way because of what I've seen the other way. So similar to what I said about centralized infrastructure and centralized architecture seen as a bad thing. I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very easy and look, I'm not guilt free on this. It's very easy to get lured into the hype,
yeah,
the buzzwords, and
yeah,
I meet a lot of technical people who very quickly it becomes, or at its worst, cult like, at its best, maybe fanboy, is just be mindful that there's so many new technologies on a daily basis, and there's so many new companies doing those technologies in so many different ways that just keep an open mind. And that is the challenge because it's hard. It's hard when you see something that you love and you go, oh no, that makes so much sense to me. You do, you pin your colors to the mast. Everyone does. It's human nature. That's the challenge because there's lots of stuff, and in that there's going to be lots of noise. It's a very saturated market. It's going to get more saturated as we were talking about with AI. There's going to be lots and
yeah.
lots of people using that term. There's going to be lots of stuff out there. That's the challenge, and it is to be brave enough as well to go, hey, the thing that I think is best might not be, and to take the stuff that is noise and just cast it to the side.
Love it. So look, just opportunity to step back, reflect, analyze, and think about what that next step is, right? Because yeah, if we jump in and get involved in the hype and sort of put ourselves right in the middle of all that energy and madness that can be seen as a bit crazy at times, where everyone's hyping about this technology or this terminology or this new opportunity. It's kind of like suddenly we can get lost and forget the detail and actually what we do need and what's going to work for us, because we sort of touched on it earlier. One hat doesn't fit all. And no, I love that. Just, yeah, take that step back, have a think, assess, work out what the best plan is, and then execute.
Yeah.
Okay, what about advice? You know, what advice do you have for others, you know, that are looking to get into, do you know, I want to say technology, but, you know, I want to go a little bit further. So getting into tech, but want to go and actually step into, you know, either working for an MSP or an IT solution provider or a service provider or a carrier, you know, in the channel. You know, what advice do you have for them? They're looking to step, you know, they may have stacks of IT experience, but they want to go from an end user into the channel, or they may want to, you know, step into, you know, as their first job in IT. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, that is a tough one.
Yeah. Don't choose marketing.
Yeah, yeah. Or go with marketing and assume they're going to move you over straight away.
Yeah, yeah.
I think something that I thought an approach that I took, which actually nowadays I think I don't know if I take necessarily the same one. I do it in a slightly different way. Is focus on something that's got your interest and really
Okay.
make sure that you kind of you're studying on that. You learn that, you understand it. Don't necessarily leave everything to the left and right, as I don't do that. Having a broad brushstroke of technical knowledge is good. I think the reason I said this is sort of funny because I just had more of a broad brushstroke across everything, right? So I didn't really specialize in anything. And I'm now saying I think it would be worth specializing in something, but having a lower, broad brushstroke of other technologies. But for me, and again, I feel like because this is almost like I'm keep giving these answers to my kids. I'm thinking about the sort of advice I give to them is just do something you love. Do something you
Yeah,
love. If you don't do that, it's pointless. And I have to believe that if you're in this industry, you at least love technology. And I think that's
yeah,
what I'm saying here is find that thing that is of most interest to you. And do you know what? If it's AI because it's the hype at the moment, go and learn about AI. If it's if it's comms, let's be honest, it's not going to be comms. Then go and look at comms. If it's development or cloud or the history of Amazon and how they got to where they are, and then all of that sort of thing, it's that. It's find something that you're passionate about,
perfect.
and then you'll be good to go. You really will because technology is massive nowadays.
Mm.
People work in technology specifically. So yeah, I think that would be my answer.
And do you know what? I absolutely love that. As you were writing down sort of interest, do your homework, do what you love. You know, I just wrote down be passionate. You know, because look, let's face it. You know, we spend more time at work than we do at home. You
Yeah,
know, whether you're remote or in the office doesn't matter. But you know, whether you're starting or moving careers or having a tech change, you know, I often say this to our guys. I say, be obsessed by
yeah,
what you do. You know, be obsessed by your market, be obsessed by your technology, be obsessed about being the best version of yourselves. Because look, if you're not passionate, if you're not eager to learn, if you're not always remaining teachable, you know, you're going to probably be average pretty quick, because there's a lot of people out there that will take full advantage of listening to podcasts like this, access to, and let's face it, we got shed loads of, free access now to lots of videos, to lots of tools, to lots of webinars, lots of, free training. And yeah, I love what you said there. You know, find something you're interested in, do it with passion, go at it, be obsessed, and just give it your all.
yeah,
And I will add something there, seek advice, talk to people. There are so many people out there in our market, in our world, living and breathing technology and loving what they do. Don't be afraid to ask and lean on people that have already been there, done it, and continue to do it. Because
definitely.
yeah, like what you're doing now, opportunity to give back to an industry that has served you so well
Mhm.
and so many others, right? And we're all here to try and empower that. And whether you're new or existing and want that change, there's access to people, technology, forums, everything to just empower you to be better. So yeah, no, I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Who do you just a little bit off piece with this question now? Who do you admire most in the sector? Is there a particular person or company?
There is, and I feel like a kind of like a corporate sellout for this.
There we go. I'm
um,
intrigued.
no, it would be a company. For me, it's Palo Alto.
Okay,
And
interesting.
the reason I say that is I I'm sort of old enough and have been in this industry long enough that I remember first hearing the name Palo Alto and thinking, who are they? And they were just this little in the UK in particular. Maybe they had a bigger presence in West Coast, I'm sure at the time, but
Yeah.
I'd never heard of them. There was
Little
two,
firewall company.
yeah, a little firewall company who's been a bit of a pain in everyone's butt, and it was like,
Yeah, yeah.
no, there's at the time it's we picked Cisco or we picked Checkpoint. There were no other options. We did not deviate, and
Yeah, yeah.
just slowly but surely, they have become the biggest security vendor as far as I'm concerned on the planet.
100%.
And I just like the way that they've gone about it and what they do, how they continue to innovate. I don't doubt, like with any big company, there's probably some skeletons in the closet, and someone will point at me and go, "Oh, but did you know this story?" And I'll be like, "No, I didn't." But I've just been so impressed with that ride and the consistency, continuation, the continuity that they don't look like they're going backwards anytime soon. And there's plenty of other
No,
companies who've been massive along that timeline who have just dropped into oblivion. So
100%.
very impressed, very impressed.
Yeah, I think that the bit that really stood out there was that continuous improvement. From where they've come from, the journey they've been on, and what they're doing now. I think when I first got into recruitment 18 years ago, I sort of just gave myself a market, and it was Cisco. If I'm honest, it was
Yeah,
like, right, I'm just going to speak to every Cisco Gold partner, and I'm going to attack it like an annoying salesperson should do. And I kind of sort of just fell into placing CCNA, CCNP, CCIEs, and it was kind of like you're either LAN or WAN. That's how basic it was back then. And it was kind of like, then it was like, actually, no, you're a network security guy, but then people were talking about, firepower, then talking about the ACI, then talk about, all this kind of technology. But actually now there's not a conversation when I'm speaking to, either a candidate or a customer that are looking for a network consultant pre or post. They are saying, I need that security firewall experience and I want it to be Paolo. Yeah. And that is even coming from a business that their core vendor from a network perspective is Cisco. They are either changing and going against the traditional Cisco firewalls because of Paolo and what it's done and achieved. And then it's kind of, I'm seeing sort of Paolo, Fortinet, and then Checkpoint and, them sort of
yeah,
ones at the bottom.
agree.
Interesting, and it's good to see your point of view on that. Perfect. Okay. Cool. Justin, we are coming near to the end. I mean, this has been brilliant. I'm going to close it off for the audience once we've had a bit of a fun, quick fire question where I'll just literally nail a few quick fire questions to you. But before I go and go into that, for anyone that is interested in working for Cloud Gateway, okay, just in terms of whether they're support, post-sales, pre-sales, architecture, whatever, any level, why should they join you guys?
Simply because they want to change the world in which they have been working in to make it a completely different future. So if they want to come and
Love it.
disrupt it and change it, we're the guys to come and work for.
Perfect. What an answer. So if anyone out there is interested, whether they're thinking about a move, change, or just have heard something today that has empowered them to think, do you know what, I'm missing out, I'm standing still, I want to work for a business that's innovative, creative, positively disruptive, and doing things bigger and better than other companies, then reach out to Justin. I'm sure he'll be really keen to give you some more insights and an overview of the business and where they're at today and what they're looking for in the future. So absolute awesome insights there, mate. Right, let's get some quick fire. Which three people would you most like to invite for dinner? Dead or
So,
alive?
oh, excellent! There you go. That's always the one. Oddly, they're all dead.
All right.
And this would be an interesting dinner party. For me, it would be Alan Turing,
Okay.
Tommy Cooper, and
Oh, brilliant.
Brian Clough.
Oh, God! What a mix as well. God, Tommy Cooper, my dad's favourite.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have an absolute blend. I don't think you'd get. I think you'd end up sitting there being in awe of all three of them, having very sort of different conversations, but interacting in a weird way.
Yeah.
So, all right, Microsoft or Apple?
This has changed over my career, but it would be Apple.
Cool. Football, rugby, or tennis?
Football all day.
Football.
All day football.
What team?
My team's Norwich City,
Okay.
which is somewhat tragic, but I coach youth football, have done for many years. I still play vets football, so football's been my life outside of tech.
Oh, wicked. Love it. Okay. Degree or apprenticeship?
Apprenticeship all day.
Oh, love it. Brilliant. Straight to the point as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, no thinking. Right. One thing, whether it be a personal passion or a hobby or something that most wouldn't know about you.
All wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Ah. I guess in the maybe or maybe not in the public domain. Oh, I don't think people quite realise my passion for video games.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Best video game. So best that you used to play but don't play so often, and now the one that's your go-to.
so a game that no one will have heard of, which is my favourite game of all time, is a game called Bubble Bobble. It's a 1980s arcade game. Um, Game that I don't play, but I go to on a reasonable basis would be Super Mario World, which was early
Wicked.
1990s on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, love it. Me too. I'm a Super Nintendo man, so I remember going down to Comet.
Yeah,
I don't even know if Comet still
I
exists
don't
when it
think
was
it
there.
does.
And it was there. So we had the Game Boy, had a Game Gear. Wasn't into the Sega. Went back to Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Then Street Fighter 2 came out,
Yeah,
and I used to walk down in my school clothes, and yeah, you'd play in Comet
yeah,
where it was free
you would.
instead of paying your 30p in the arcade next door and getting in trouble. So
Yeah.
no, I love it. Wicked. Favorite technology over the last sort of 10, 20 years? Work or home?
Oh, favourite technology. Um, I'm going to say the rise of the television technology, which I guess ties into the last one. I just think moving from CRT to flat screen has been mesmerising.
Love it. Love that answer as well. No one said that yet as yet. So worst bit of technology that if you click your fingers and get rid of it, you would.
Social media.
Yes.
And
Do you know what? It's a love and pet hate, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's we all use it. Yeah. Yeah, do you know what? Actually, I'm not even going to comment on it. Yeah, it's a nightmare. I'm the same. Yeah, I wish I could get rid of it as well. So, there's a whole deeper, another conversation around that, how
there
it's
very much
affected so
is.
many people, isn't it? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay. Best thing about the channel
Um, people
in
and
one sentence.
people and knowledge. I think the knowledge within the channel is humongous, and I think it is underrated or unknown. As in, I don't think it's qualified enough. As in, people don't realise it. So with that comes the people, but the strength and the depth of the knowledge in the channel is huge.
Love that. One thing people should be beware of, be wary of when they go in to the channel.
The difference between people who've been there for 25 years and the people who've just started.
Oh, I love that. I'm not going to probe you on that. That's definitely for when we have a beer or a coffee, mate.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, a motto that you live by, or top
Um,
advice you give someone.
so a day without learning is a day wasted.
I love it. Wicked. I'm going to steal that. Mine's, always remain teachable. So
Yeah,
similar.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Cool. So one thing that you would have liked to have known, when you sort of began your career, that you now know.
That Google would become more than just a silly search engine.
Mate, I absolutely love it. Justin, thank you so much. Some amazing insights there. I just want to thank you and the wider team for all of your time, all of your effort. I wish you and the business a huge amount of ongoing success. If anyone would like to comment or ask Justin direct any questions, all of his details will be below. Feel free to reach out direct or just comment. Furthermore, if you'd like to subscribe to the InfraViewing Spotlight series, all details are below. Or if you are interested in going under the spotlight, feel free to reach out to me direct. Once again, Justin, you have been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And appreciate your time, buddy.
Cool. Thanks very much.